hello, and welcome to this episode of Geography Girl. Today, we are delving into the wonderful world of Punch magazine, which gives us an insight into Victorian print culture. Punch was one of the most popular weekly magazines in Victorian Britain. In its pages, it offered satire, cartoons, and social political commentary. It is a fascinating visual record of the manners and morals of Victorian society, as its cartoons can be read as a reflection of mainstream attitudes. It was aimed at the male conservative middle class, although it was read by the whole family. And just like we might satirise the modern influences, Punch ridicules vanity, excess, and the constantly changing landscape of women's fashion, which shifted with the many technological developments and advances in the rights of women of the time. It provides a window into Victorian social morals, tastes, and opinions. I got the inspiration for this episode from the Fashion and Satire in Punch magazine blog post, which highlights their top 4 ways in which Punch magazine commentates on women's fashion. It's a highly entertaining read, and I'd highly recommend it, and I'd love to look into these ideas in further detail, as I think they are brilliant. And what we are looking at today is the Designs After Nature series, which was done by Edward Linley Swanburne, which ran between 1867 and 1876. It contains over 20 images depicting women dressed as animals, the first being an image of Miss Swellington walking in a peacock dress. The series is a fascinating insight into the view of women at the time, being a commentary and a parody on fashionable dress, which included corsets, bustle skirts, and hinted at how frivolous and unnatural this form of dress is. The illustrations of women fashioned from nature came at a time where the role of women in society was debated and challenged, with women's suffrage societies coming together throughout the country. The year before, MP and philosopher John Stuart Mill presented the first mass women's suffrage petition. It was brought to Parliament by Emily Davis and Elizabeth Garrett and had 1,499 names on it, leading to the first debate on the votes for women. Representations of women in literature were also changing. Novels of sensation began to dominate the book market, which was a genre designed to unsettle and cause moral alarm amongst critics. Writers such as Wilkie Collins and Mary Elizabeth Braddon challenged the ideal of domesticity and the middle classes, where women were centred within a safe domestic sphere. The sensation fiction took elements of the Gothic castle to the modern home and was full of murderous, vengeful, bigamous and mad women who used disguise and their sexuality to transpose class boundaries and to trick men. Therefore, perhaps the insects and animals are a metaphor to represent the world outside the domesticity of the middle class. In Edward's drawings, the Victorians were fascinated by natural history and nature, and it was common to find insect collections and taxidermy animals and aquariums and terrariums in a middle-class home. Contemporary feminist scholars have interpreted this series of drawings through a lens of Darwinian ideas that had come into the public imagination in Victorian England. A blog post by Curious Sengi named Figures, Summer Fashion by Mr. Punch's Designs After Nature outlines the views of Bernstein, explaining that these cartoons play with the lines separating humans from animals, which parallels morphing views of women in society, an ambiguously humorous angle on femininity in flux. Similarly, Cohen identifies images of women in plumes as perfect exemplars of Darwin's observation in The Descent of Man, that in humans, women are the more ornamental sex, and they fulfill their desire for ornamentation by taking the beautiful feathers of male birds for themselves. Observation and interpretation of nature by Darwin and his contemporaries revealed a world not necessarily filled with things all bright and beautiful. The new Darwinian world was one of constant change, which found an apt metaphor for the fickleness of women's fashions. Though undeniably living under tight social constraints and blatant inequalities, Sanborn's cartoons begin to show that women are not just the domestic angels of the Victorian household, but cunning females employing stratagems from nature. Extravagant avian costumes are an inversion of the usual mode of sexual selection, where it is now the female competing to capture male attention and stand out amongst rivals. The prickles of a porcupine, the snail's shell, bustle, and the wasp outfit advertise the danger of tampering with a woman's defences. There is a protective mimicry of the veiled lady masquerading as a group of butterflies. There is perhaps even unfair advantage to the woman co-opting a grasshopper leg mechanics in a game of lawn tennis. It is argued in a blog post by Winchester School of Art Library that the natural habitats of these creatures and plants were outside of the domestic space. They are literally the outside, and therefore women in nature could be seen as a critique against women's increasing encroachment or invasion in the public sphere. Further to this point, many of Punch's pictures feature women as insects that were seen as irritating or dangerous. Listen to this take on the depiction of women dressed as wasps. The caption appears to be referencing to the fashion of using extremely tight corsets to create tiny waists. Yet it is also worth noting that the criticism waspishness is often gendered and usually applied to women. In addition, wasps can transcend the boundaries and infiltrate the safety of the domestic space, and once in, they are difficult to get rid of. Despite their small size, they possess a powerful sting. Punch uses the image of a woman dressed as a stag beetle to illustrate an article on women's suffrage. This could be in part reference to the popularity of using beetle wings in contemporary fashion. However, the illustrator's choice of a stag beetle with its hard shell and sharp pincers may have been a reference to the determination of women campaigning for their franchise and their resolute demands for change. Unlike many of the other examples in insect women in Punch, this illustration also features a man. Rather than looking horrified at his wife, he walks beside her, oblivious to any kind of threat. Consequently, the illustration could be read as a warning to men. The angels of the house are far more dangerous than they appear. One of the most famous examples of these dresses in real life is the beetle wing dress, designed by Alice Commons Carr in 1888 and was created for the foreboding Lady Macbeth, played by a famous actress, Ellen Terry, when the show opened in December 1888. The green dress embroidered by beetle wing cases which shimmered in the light and was designed to look like scales with a terrifying effect. And that's it for today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed this look at Punch magazine and these perspectives on what this says about society and attitudes to women at the time. I'll be certainly looking into this for more episodes. Let me know in the comments if there is anything that you would like me to cover. And if you like this episode, please give us a like, subscribe for more. I bring out new episodes every Tuesday. Goodbye.